Good morning, YouTube. It's your buddy Chop It On coming at you with another episode of Chop Talk brought to you by DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for all things daily fantasy sports. From content to tools to coaching, we have it all. We cover all the major sports. You can find a link to become a VIP at the bottom of this comment section and use the code CHOP, C-H-O-P, for 10% off the lifetime of your membership. That's grandfathered in, and I'm telling you, in a couple of weeks, prices are going up when NFL season rolls around. You need to lock yourself in today, finish up the MLB season with us, and get rolling into NFL as our content starts to drop. That's what we're shifting our focus towards now. We're starting to turn a little bit more towards NFL the second half of the MLB season, and we're going to really, really rock and roll through the 16-week NFL season as we lead into NBA and lead back into baseball and pick up a little bit of hockey and have golf going all the time and MMA going all the time and all of the major sports that are kicking on the television, we've also got covered for DFS purposes. So become a VIP today, and let's move into today's episode or article, whatever version of Chin Music, because I want to show you a couple of things just to get our systems back right. I was on vacation for the last week or so, went down to Florida, took the kids, got sunburned from our head to our toes because Mama gave us expired suntan lotion, sunscreen. It was unbelievable. We sprayed up. We thought everything was great. We went out on the beach and we looked like a bunch of idiots on day two. Total tourists. It was awful. I'm even blistering a little bit on the back of my arms. Was out there riding waves, boogie boarding, eating sand, all that sort of good fun stuff. I can't get enough of the beach. I don't know if you're a beach person or a mountain person. I can't get enough of the beach. And being out there on day one really, really hurt the rest of the vacation when we were we were drilling the aloe vera for the remainder of the vacation. We rebounded quick. We were a pretty tough clan up here. We didn't miss much beach time. We went out and did a whole bunch of fun boating stuff and whatnot and made the best of it. But dude, I will tell you this, my tip to you, the expiration date on the spray sunscreen is for real. We again had no idea that Mom handed us the wrong bottle, and that was all she wrote. At any rate, let's dive into Chin Music and talk a little bit. Let's get our fundamentals straight, because as I rework my own brain, you guys get to come along for the ride. It's a wild and crazy ride at that. Back to basics. We're looking at the offenses today and who is scoring the most runs over the last month and who's giving up the most runs over the last month. And what we're trying to find is the teams that kind of appear on both lists, or at the very least appear on one or the other. Like we'll be targeting Reds, Diamondbacks, Astros, Red Sox, Rockies when they're in good matchups, of course. And then we'll be targeting teams like the Nationals, the Reds, the White Sox, Royals, especially when they face teams that are that are scoring a lot of runs and are in, that puts them in a little bit better matchup. One of the things that I will tell you is when it comes to DFS, and this is getting your mind right, and when you reset the system, I've told this story a lot to our VIPs, that when I played golf every day, you get a little out of sorts. You pick up this swing tip, you implement it, and it works for a little while, and then something else goes wrong. You pick up that swing tip and you implement it, and things keep going. And next thing you know, you got 4 or 5 different swing tips in your head, and now you've gone away from your general game. You're in your head, and nothing feels right anymore, and nothing's working out anymore. And that could be some of your DFS games right now. You need to get back to the basics, back to the fundamentals. And the way you do that, at least the way I did that when I was playing golf, is I literally took 2 weeks off. I said, hell with it. I'm going to drop my clubs, put them in the back of my garage, and I'm not going to play. Because I needed to get all of that bad thought, the bad habits, all that bad muscle memory out of my system. And I needed to get a complete, just like a hard reset of my computer. And then when I came back, that first day, I was always like, oh my God, I haven't hit a ball for 2 weeks. I have no freaking idea where this thing's going to go. Could land on the green, could go in the trees, could go into a house. I don't know. And the only way I could get back on track was to get right back to the very basics and the very fundamentals of my golf swing and the way it worked for me. And guess what? I usually popped right back into form within a couple of minutes. If you wonder why the tour pros are taking time off, and sometimes they're doing that too. They get a little out of sorts, they need to reset the system, they take some time off, they come back, and then the next thing you know, their swing is back the way it has felt since forever. Well, DFS is very, very similar. You get so I'm thinking about this stat and this guy and that guy, and the next thing you know, I'm all out of sorts and I'm all whacked up, and how am I going to really fix? Well, take some time off, take a few days off, You don't have to play every day, and then come back and then focus on your original groove. And guess what? You'll probably come right back into form. So let's let that be the tip of the day. And we'll move through. And like I said, we're focused on these offenses and these pitching staffs for attacking for DFS purposes. When it comes to pitching, Garrett Cole's lead dog on the slate. Don't let it fool you. Minus 245 Vegas odds, 564 K score is massive on this particular slate because nobody else can even compete with a 500. DFSA grade, I don't like Oakland that much either. I didn't check any BVP or anything like that, but to be honest with you, he's just your cash game lead slate. He's probably the most trustworthy pitcher to get you, your 30, 40, 50 points or so. We know he's got upside to 70, 75. Kershaw has been a little bit off and on this year, being a little bit injury prone. Coming on the backside of his career, where maybe he's not as durable as he used to be, or maybe there's something else a little bit wrong. He hasn't had that dominant stuff that we're so used to. And as a result, he's 600 less than Garrett Cole. I'm going to take the safety in Garrett Cole. Kershaw's in a pretty good matchup. We never mind attacking the San Diego Padres pitching or bats, but to be honest with you, I just trust Garrett Cole a little bit more. Barrios, bad matchup with Kansas City. Not bad in that he's going to get really thumped hard, but just bad in that Casey doesn't strike out much, and so it really lowers his ceiling tonight. His floor is probably still there, but he's a little inconsistent as it is anyway. The ceiling is just not as high. It's not a $10,000 pitcher ceiling, in my opinion. I can be off of him. Eduardo Rodriguez, $8,000 minus 200, and then he's got the 480 K score nearly. I don't like attacking Texas bats. They can be really, really hot or really, really cold with any pitcher on the mound. But for $8,000, I will have some shares of him because he allows me great bats. And if I can get 30 out of Rodriguez and then get a couple of guys that hit some home runs, I can cash very, very easily with him. But Rodriguez is not safe enough to do that in cash games. You want to opt for a little bit higher price pitching most nights and a little bit, more consistent bats. I don't want to be taking $12,000 pitchers most of the time. I don't want to be taking $4,500 bats most of the time because especially because bats are fluky. I will pay up to $11,000-$12,000 for pitching before I pay $5,000 in cash for bats. And the reason why, again, is bats are so fluky. I can't afford to throw that chunk of change out at it. Now, if there's other value plays that allow me to do it, I will do it. But as a general rule, one cash game, this will be tip number 2, one cash game principle you can rely on is you never need to take the highest priced guy in cash. Cash games favor a little bit more of a balanced build from top to bottom. A little bit more. I can afford, if I take a $5,000 bat, I've got to go find a $2,000 bat somewhere or close to it most times. For that to happen, I still balanced out at about $3,500 per bat. But what I'd rather do is find two $3,500 bats because the $5,000 bat can brick off on me. And the $3,500 bats are generally decent bats. They're generally fairly consistent people. And on top of that, they're generally, some of them are ascending players, and you still got some value built into that salary. Whereas at a $5,000 bat, there's not a lot of value built into that salary most times. So balanced for cash. GPP is a little more stud and scrub, but generally speaking, you lean a little bit more balanced for cash. I would opt, instead of taking, if I had 2 players left over, and say $6,500 in salary left, instead of going for a $4,500 player and a $2,500 player, I would rather go for two $3,800 players because that's just going to build me a little bit better floor. We'll talk more about that with our VIPs and stuff when they ask questions for clarification, but I just wanted to get that tip out there too. The main actually, I need to wrap up by saying that Archer, probably my second favorite pitcher on the slate. Minus 180, 450 K score. Doesn't look great, but attacking Detroit's fine, and the DFSA grade agrees. I will probably have a lot of Cole, a good bit of Archer, say 80% Cole, and maybe more like 70% Cole, 20% Archer, and then maybe 10% Rodriguez. I would have a little bit of Nola. I don't have any interest in Clevenger. Clevenger's a little bit high priced for this number here, so I'm not as thrilled. I do like their bats. When we scroll down and we look at the pitching to exploit, LA, Cleveland, and Houston, Pittsburgh a little bit, but Pittsburgh hasn't been scoring a lot of runs lately. They're, I think, like 23rd in the league over the last month. That's not going to get it done. Yeah, they can explode on a bad pitcher, and that's fine, but it's more of a GPP thing. When you've got standard offenses that you know and you sort of trust, LA Dodgers, Cleveland, Houston. When I scroll back up here, just to verify, Dodgers are not on this list, but Indians are and Astros are. So those are my two offenses. They're two good offenses that are happen to be scoring a lot of runs right now that are also going up against softer pitching. That's just check mark, check mark, check mark, green lights. Yeah, I will pay attention to New York. I'll pay attention to Minnesota. I'll pay attention to Boston. But, and here's the thing. Let's compare Houston and Boston. Houston and Boston are great offenses. We know that. And when they face good pitching or bad pitching, the degree of the matchup kind of slides on a scale. Maybe one day it's an 8 out of 10. Maybe another day it's a 9 out of 10. Maybe another day it's a 6 out of 10, whatever. I'm going to be looking at those core players inside those offenses every single day. This is another thing. Daily fantasy sports, tip number 3. We tend to really bounce around and we tend to really get crazy with chasing the hot bat and chasing this guy and switching it up tomorrow and switching it up the next day and whatever else. There's something to be said for blending it into like a season-long tactic where I'm just going to ride Jose Altuve pretty much all year. I'm going to be looking to roster him at every moment that I can with Houston because he's going to get his numbers. He's going to go through large swings up and down, but he's going to get his numbers. There's nothing wrong with having a core of players that you look for on a daily basis and then plugging in the ones that are in the little bit better matchup. So like I look at New York every day, Judge, Stanton, whatever, right? I look at Sanchez when he plays. I'm looking at Houston. I'm looking at, Altuve, Correa, Bregman, whatever. LA, I'm looking at Kemp this year and Puig and Grandal and Muncy now, and Cleveland is Ramirez, Lindor, Brantley. Those types of plays. Boston goes without saying. There's so many guys on the Boston offense. But I'm going to be switching it up a little bit when I look at the slate and say, okay, the pitching is here, the ballpark is here, the weather is here, the bats are a little bit hotter or colder here. And I'm going to say, you know what? Houston's in tonight about a 7 or an 8 out of 10 matchup. Boston's in about a 6 or a 7 out of 10. So I'm going to lean Houston today, but tomorrow that could flip-flop. But I'm going to run that same core of bats right. They're going to start my stacks. Day in, day out, day in, day out, every time I want to use them. I'm not going to really chase them up and down and switch different players out and do all of this kind of stuff. Like I always look in Houston for Jake Marisnick to get the start. He's not bad in the 8-9 hole, but I love him when he leads off because he's cheap and he can do something. Now, that's just the principles of DFS. Too many people are flipping around and jumping this way and jumping that way, and they're not sticking with the same core players every single day. And that is part of why they're not very steady, and it's part of why they're not very good. That's what we try to teach people inside, DFS Army, is to try and show you guys how to narrow the player pools down and how to find those guys, and then tell you maybe which offenses are in the better spots. And then it's up to you to go out there and build your own stacks and whatever else. Maybe not even using these players. You might like Pittsburgh tonight. I'm not writing Pittsburgh up. I already showed you they're in an okay spot facing a bad pitcher. I'm just not going to carry them. But if you're going to play a GPP and you really see something and you really like Pittsburgh tonight, go ahead and use them. And take a shot on them in a GPP or something like that. And if they connect, score 8 runs tonight, maybe you win. You probably dust me. Yeah, but I'm going to tell you, I'm not ever going to be brutal. I'm always going to be, top third, top half of the scoreboards. That's what my goal is. And you're going to have a hard time getting past a guy like me who's focused on Houston and Minnesota today and Boston and whatever else and the good pitchers. You're going to get cute. You're going to take all those different risks and those different chances. And I'm going to be, you're going to get past me on days where it works and you're going to be way underneath me on days it doesn't. And I'm going to win 60% of our head-to-heads by just playing steady Eddie and forcing you to take the gambles and forcing you to make the mistake of taking this player or that player just to get over me because you already know that I'm going to be up, here 120, 130, something like that, and you got to take some chances to get past that. That's how cash gamers play. Tournament players just go for the nuts every single day. It's like swinging for the fence for home runs. Those are kind of the final thoughts there. As far as any of this is concerned, I would tell you in the research station, we've got our pitchers matchups all loaded up. We've also got my favorite tool, the Trends tab. Should be loaded up in current. And what I'm doing is I'll show you really quickly how to do this. If you want to become a VIP and grab control of this yourself, let's find some value bats today. Let's turn off the 4 o'clock games because we don't care about those. We only want the main slate games. I'm going to take the last 7 days of WOBA And I've already got the number filter set greater than 350. Let's jump that up a little bit to say 380 and get a little bit better player. I'm going to take the 14-day plate appearances, and I'm going to say you need to be greater than about 35. I want people who are playing every day, not spot starters. I can look at the lineups page for spot starters. Now I'm cutting my list down, right? I'm using these filters to cut the list down. Now I'm going to come all the way over here. And I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to say less than 3,800. These are my value bats. I'll cut it down even a little bit further. Less than 3,300. How many players are on this list? They're all hitting better than 380 WOBA. They're getting a lot of plate appearances. They're all less than 3,800. There's my value bats right there. Memorize that list and play them. So you want to play Garrett Cole, build a lineup out of those guys, run it in cash. Because we don't stack so much in cash, so you can take a Houston, a Cincinnati, a Chicago, an LA, a Kansas City, and Milwaukee. You're going to get the hot hitters. You're spread out. No big deal. You're exposed to a lot of different offenses. You're not going to correlate and really get way up the board and score maybe 200 points tonight, but you can probably get to 120, 130, 140 and end up with a really nice night as far as cash games are concerned. Now, if you really, really wanted to, you can organize this team alphabetically by these players and see, or just maybe stick with the hottest. So you want to sort that by descending, go for it. Now you got your hotter bats up front. Let's see if we can find anything that we could stack. Chicago, San Diego, LA, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, still nothing. There's two Pittsburgh bats, 440, 560. So Starling Marte and Elias Diaz. If Diaz gets the start today, you're in like Flint. And maybe he has. I've been away for a week. But there's two. There's a mini stack out of Pittsburgh you could probably use. Kansas. There's Chicago. There's Happ and Contreras. Boom, boom. Is there another Cub on here? No. Cincinnati. There's another Kansas City guy. You want to throw Whit Merrifield in there with Lucas Duda? These are mini stacks you can find. Very, very easy way to build cash lineups. And all value bats and ready to rock and roll with Ian Cole or Garrett Cole. So just another way to do it. Use this sheet, morph it around to fit your style and what you're looking for. Learn how to use it by using the tutorial under the MLB tab, starting research station, and then this right there. You can load up that tutorial and learn how to use these filters and stuff yourself. I just give you tips here and there. Hopefully that's been enough for you guys. We're going to bug out for Monday. And we're going to go play some baseball. And like I said, come back, see us at dfsarmy.com, become a VIP, open up all this stuff, open up the Slack discussion where we actually deliver the coaching and customize it more towards what you want to become as a player, and use code CHOP, C-H-O-P, to do it. dfsarmy.com, code CHOP, C-H-O-P. I will see you guys inside Slack. Take care.